let me stop you right there, because let's weigh out the pros and cons of this job, because I want to talk about that. I want to talk about who's going to be making this hire, because it does sound a little bit confusing. Spoiler alert. And just lay out what's appealing and what's not appealing about the Chicago Bears job, because I think you're going to hear it all over the media landscape for the next few weeks that this will be a coveted job. And I think it will be.
Yeah.
It's a legacy franchise. It's a major market. It's a nice roster. The Bears have a strong defense.
Kevin Warren came out today and said that this will be the most highly coveted job in the National Football League. And while objectively that might be true, that's the last thing I want to hear out of the Bears' mouths, because I don't want them to rest on their laurels of it being a good situation and saying, oh, look at our roster. Look at how much this is curated. Look at the prestige of working for the founding franchise of the NFL. Miss me with all of that right now.
I was just doing Bears PR for them. I'm
Miss
sorry.
me.
That's my bad.
I don't want to hear it, because at the same time, you don't put the necessary amount of resources behind these coaching hires. That's blatantly apparent given the ineptitude that has happened over the last decade. This is something where it's not just getting the head coach hiring right. You need to spend money on that then. And then you need to give him the resources that he needs. And you need to get someone with some sort of track record or someone that knows how to win, whether that's a coordinator that was on a staff like Ben Johnson, who has seen a complete turnaround like the Detroit Lions just did, or it's someone that's actually done it before, because those guys walking into your building saying, hey, I know how to win. This is how you do it. This is what I need. That carries a lot more weight than a first-time head coach being like, yeah, I guess this is what we need.
So
you can't do that again.
And they've done it plenty.
Like, yes.
So the pros are pretty easy to lay out. Caleb Williams, for all the criticism and maybe fair to say he hasn't lived up to the crazy hype, plenty good starting point when you've got him on the roster. Got talent all over the offense. The defense is strong. Again, great market. Legacy franchise.
Yes.
If a head coach can ever get this team where it wants to be, they will be a god in the city of Chicago.
For the rest of their lives.
People still dress up like Mike Ditka, and it's been 40 years.
Yeah.
So all of that said, let's talk about the cons. And you laid a few of them out really well just now, but I was struck by the press conference that Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren did this week, coming out of the weekend. Bears general manager, Bears team president, business operations, all that good stuff. They had a joint press conference, and it kind of looked to me like after like NCAA tournament games when like players will do a press conference with their coach,
yes,
and the players are just sort of sitting there taking their cues from the coach. That's what Ryan Poles
was doing,
reminded me of. Like he was sitting there just like, do I have to talk? And when should I talk? What should I say? And Kevin Warren really felt like he was calling the shots. And if you talk about the way the Bears handled the firing as a red flag, maybe it's extreme to call it a red flag, but I'm awfully curious if I'm a coaching candidate about the power structure there and the fact that how long is Ryan Poles going to be the general manager in Chicago? Because this feels like a last strike sort of situation. If this hiring doesn't go well, I think it could be curtains for Ryan Poles next. And Kevin Warren he came across like a guy that has the real authority in this situation. And I wonder how troubling that is if you're thinking about becoming the Bears' next head coach.
All you need to do is look at the org chart. And the org chart has Kevin Warren over Ryan Poles and over football operations. This was one of my concerns when the hiring of Kevin Warren was announced with the Chicago Bears. Listen, Kevin Warren has done some wonderful things, especially when he was up in Minnesota. They built that beautiful stadium, US Bank. It's one of my favorites in the league, if not my favorite. And the way that he got the cooperation from the city and all of that kind of stuff, that is why Kevin Warren was brought to Chicago, because Chicago, the Bears, want a new stadium, need a new stadium. But then to put him over football operations also. So now you are over business and football. That is not a common scenario in the NFL for a team president to have ultimate authority over a general manager when it comes to football making decisions. And that was always something where I was like, even if Kevin Warren's qualified, because he did work in football ops for the Lions, I believe a while ago,
20-ish
years ago. Even if you are qualified to do both, doing both is going to stretch anybody extraordinarily thin. And if you're stretched that thin, can you really do a good job on both of those regards? And we know that the stadium they haven't decided on a site yet. They haven't started breaking ground yet. They're like, they are still in a push-pull with the city, with maybe Arlington Heights. Like, there are so many different dynamics that are unresolved when it comes to the stadium. And now all of this turmoil is going on with football. And yes, you're right. When you look at, all right, the general manager doesn't seem to have any power here, even though Kevin Warren's kind of saying that Ryan Poles is going to make the decision on the head coach, but it doesn't really sound like that's the case. But all right, if you're a head coach, that means you answer to the general manager, you answer to Ryan Poles. Well, then there's another layer to Kevin Warren. And then there's another layer then to ownership, which, as much as ownership wants to tell you that they keep their nose out of it, they have a weekly meeting with Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, and previously Matt Eberflus. That's a weekly meeting that happens in Hallis Hall. So there are so many cooks in this kitchen, and it's so hard to know who ultimately has authority. And if I'm a head coach coming into this, or a coaching candidate coming into this, I'm like, well, how am I going to get anything done? And I think a lot of coaches that are experienced, that are the kind of coaches that the Bears need to set them on the right track and rebuild the culture and all that other stuff, are going to look at that and be like, nah, I'm good. Like, any coach that knows better is going to think twice about the Chicago Bears job.
I think that's fair. And at the same time, it's also a cliche, but it rings so true. There's 32 of these jobs in the world.
Right.
And eventually, like, they get filled. And not
That's
only that,
why I said they wouldn't take it. That's why I said they would think twice, because there is.
True.
You can still be one of 32.
People line up to take bad jobs. And they, on the flip side of this, the right coach, not even the right coach, all coaches will think they will be the one to fix that. Because, Dan Campbell fixed a bad culture in Detroit. Sean Payton completely changed an abysmal culture in New Orleans. The right coach can do wonders with even the most stagnant, dysfunctional organization. But what are the odds that you're really good enough to overcome those sort of built-in roadblocks? That's what makes this really interesting. Yep. At the end of the day, I agree with Kevin Warren. This will probably be the best job that comes open.
Yeah. The roster is fantastic. But again, I don't want the Bears resting on those laurels and just saying, look, our roster is great.